Hey guys, welcome back to the Tukes and Tires YouTube channel. As always, I'm Zach, and this week we're making up a new fuel system for the C1 Chevelle.
Hey, is that Timmy's?
Yeah, because we're in Canada.
So we're trying to get the fuel system all figured out on the C1 Chevelle in this video today. So we're actually kind of like halfway through a video right now. I'm actually working on the rear end, but I'm waiting on parts. So, you know, we're trying to get every last minute I can get here to actually work on the car. So we're going to try to get this all figured out today. So you can see, I actually have the new tank in here, and I actually got this from my buddy Evan from Enemy Metalworks. So definitely go give him a follow. So thank you, Evan, for this tank. It's going to work perfect for the car. So we got some things chopped out here, and this is actually happening in a different video due to the rear end. So, you know, you guys will just have to watch that video when it comes out to understand how we got to this point with the tank. But I just kind of have it mocked up in here right now, just kind of seeing where we're going to set it. I do have to add another bar back in here that we're going to be doing. So we'll get that added in, and then I have some angle irons that we're going to put on the bottom to actually hold this tank up. And then we got to figure out some kind of strap. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to just start cutting some stuff out, get it welded in there, and then see what we got to do for mounting the pump and stuff. And I'll show you, guys, all the stuff I bought to actually make this thing hopefully function. Lacey, you ready to work? No, you were all chatty before. What are you doing? Let's get to work. Alright guys, so we got the Chevelle in the air now, and I actually got this other tube welded in here. It's going to make it really great for actually making mounts to go across here for the gas tank. So I just bought this angle iron here, and I've actually just welded tabs onto it like this. So that's going to go up here, something like that. So we're going to actually get this thing welded in there, and then we'll see if the tank is going to fit. So we got those angle irons welded down there in the bottom. They're looking pretty sweet, and I already went ahead and made up some straps. This is just 1-inch aluminum by like 1/8 thick. So they're just like bolted down on either side, and this tank is like super sturdy. It's not going anywhere. Friggin' Lacey's already helping out. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you all the stuff we have left for all the parts that we need to add on, like our fuel pump and our filter and the line we're going to be using. So man, this tank, it's looking pretty sweet back in here, and you know, just one more piece to the puzzle. But we'll show you all that stuff, and then we'll see about trying to figure out where it's got to go. Friggin' Lacey. So to start us off here, this is the pump and filter that we're going to be using here in the back. I obviously have a whole bunch of fittings that are going to go with this, but for now we got to just figure out where these two things are going to go. I actually bought most of this stuff from Speedway Motors. I'm not sponsored, but you know, shout out to those guys. They sell some pretty cool stuff. So for the pump, we're just using this Holley. It's the red pump. It's a maximum of 7 psi. That should be plenty for our carbureted setup. Hopefully this is going to obviously be good enough for our drive. My dad's got one of these on his lawn tractor, and she works, so hopefully that's going to be all right for the Chevelle. And then for a pre-filter, we're just using this hot rod filter. I bought this stuff all in a kit. It came with a regulator and everything. So obviously this is a brand new tank, so there's going to be no junk in it, but we want to run a pre-filter just so that we're not running anything through this pump, and you know, it should look pretty good hanging underneath there. So I think what we're going to do is get this thing into the air once again so we can see where we need to make brackets to hang this stuff, and then from that we can actually see where we need to make our fuel line from. So, you know, here we go. So we're under the Chevelle once again, and we kind of need to figure out where we want to put the filter and the pump. We do know that our fuel line comes off over here, because I just stuck my fitting on there so we can kind of see where we need to place this stuff. So I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put the filter here and then the pump here. The pump needs to be pretty well at the bottom of the tank just so that it works for like gravity, because the pump is a lot better at pushing fuel than it is like pumping it. So we want to keep it relatively close to where, you know, the bottom is and not too far away from the fuel source so we don't burn out that pump. So I think what we're going to do here is I made up this plate with some riv nuts. We're going to get this welded on over here. I might just tack it first, and then we'll like hang the filter and the pump, make sure I'm happy with it, and then after that we can actually show you the fuel fittings we all got to make this all connect together and the fuel line. So I'll get this welded in, and then we'll start bending up some line. Friggin' Lacey's ready to go at it, huh? All right, guys, so we got that plate welded in here, and I'm really digging on how all this placement's going to work out with the filter and the pump. So I figured since we got that in there, we'll talk about all the fuel fittings I'm going to be using and the line that we're actually going to be putting onto this. So I bought the filter and the pump and the regulator from a kit from Speedway. So they just sent some fittings to go along with that stuff. So these are 3/8 MPT to -6, so I just got a little bit of Teflon tape onto the pipe thread there. Part number for that is this, if you guys can read that. And then on the pump here, obviously we got it in there, I just have to install that one. And then same deal on the filter. And if you're new here, I really like using 3/8 aluminum line, like a hard line for my fuel lines. We've used it on most of the other builds we've done on the channel. So you can see that we have the tube nuts and tube sleeves to go with that. This is for -6, so it's gonna work really nicely with everything we got here. And then we have this big coil here of 25 feet of this aluminum line. So there is a special flaring tool we need to use to actually do this. So I'm gonna show you that over at the workbench, and we'll see about bending up some lines to join this all together. So I'll meet you over there. So we got everything set up here to make up our first fuel line. So this is gonna go from the tank to the pre-filter. And what we're gonna use to do that is this 3/8 aluminum fuel line. You can buy this stuff basically anywhere online, like Summer Racing, Amazon, whatever. If you just search up 3/8 aluminum fuel line, this should come up. It bends really nicely around corners and stuff like that, and once you get it underneath your vehicle, it looks just nice and tidy. I prefer this stuff over just regular AN line. It's a lot cheaper to go this route once you actually have this die tool to do it. And what we're going to be using to go with this to actually join it to AN fittings are the matching tube nut and tube sleeve. So hopefully you guys can see the part numbers there for those. I buy this stuff off of Summit Racing just because it seems like it's pretty good quality, and once you add it to your cart with the line, you know, it just comes all in one package. So this is what the tube nut and tube sleeve looks like. So just like a brake line, you want to make sure you get this stuff on before you flare it, because obviously you're in a world of hurt if you don't put it on beforehand. So just like the line just goes like this, like you want to make sure you get your tube nut on right with the thread sticking out. This has a notch in it, so you're going to want to make it so that the small part goes to the inside. You get that slid on ways, and then obviously afterwards you can get it like that. But we're just going to stick it into our flaring tool here. This is a special set of dies for the Eastwood brake flaring tool. This is for a 37-degree flare, so you have to buy that separately. But you can see that this is the Eastwood one, and the K-Tools one fits in there. So if you guys are buying this at home, just know that you can do that. So you want to make sure that you start off on position 0, have the line hanging a little bit, just tighten it just a little bit. We're going to pull it in so it lines us up. We're going to tighten this down. We're going to turn to position or operation 1. We're going to pull it. We have it on 3/8. With the aluminum line, you want to make sure that you check it, that you don't over crush it. You know, just with time, you're going to get better with that. You're going to go to operation 2. So you can see this one is for 5/16 or 3/8. So we're going to crush that in. Make sure we're checking that we just have a little bit of a flare, because you want to make sure that your tube nut is actually going to go over top of that. Loosen this off, crack this apart. Oh, we just lost the die. But hopefully this slides over top, and we have a really nice 37-degree flare in there for AN line, and then we can bend this to however way we want. So I'm going to start bending this from the tank, work my way to the filter, and then we'll show you guys what it looks like once it's underneath there. It's just that easy, but you got to have this thing to do it. So we got this line all bent in here, and it's looking pretty good. This one in between the filter and the pump was tricky, obviously, just because I only had so much room to bend stuff, but we do got it in there. But all I got to do now is I'm going to run the line from here up to the front of the car. I'm going to show you what we're going to do up there with a filter kind of underneath, and then we'll actually get the line from the filter up to the firewall to our regulator. So I'll get this line run, and then we'll show you what we got going on over there and kind of how I tackle the long run on the car. So here we go. So we got our long length run from the pump there. You can see that it kind of goes on the outside. This was the best route for me for actually on my car. If I could have ran it on the inside, I probably would have done so. But with this way, it's going to make it accessible for us if we ever have any leaks. So just before we actually lower this thing down, I just wanted to show you guys kind of how I go about this. So you can see that we have the long length running from there to kind of halfway on the car. And then I ended up putting one of these Russell filters here, so you can split that thing apart and clean it out if you want to. The part number for that is this. You can use this on high pressure or like what we're doing with the 7 psi. You know, just making it accessible like this that you can clean it if you're on the road, and also making it like on a lower section on the car. Hopefully if there is any dirt, it's going to hang out in this area. So from here, doing it this way, that we have just a long length from there, it's not going to make it too difficult for actually going from here to where we got to go with the regulator. So all we got to do now is actually make a line just from there, bend it up over to where we want the regulator. So just before we actually lowered this thing down, I wanted to show you guys that, just how I kind of go about it. If you really wanted to, you could run a long length right from the pump right to the front. Might make your life a little bit more difficult, but this way, you know, I wasn't cursing and swearing, trying to make so many bends and, you know, flare the line, because that's another thing you got to think about. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to lower this thing down, see about making up this other line, and get our regulator mounted, and then we'll go from there. So here we go. Alright guys, so we got our other hard line made up that comes from the filter underneath, and you can see that it goes over there to our bracket for our regulator. We already got that mounted up, so it's ready to go. It definitely made it a whole lot easier doing that hard line in 2 pieces, and ow, why you bite me? But you know, you could have done it all in one length, but this just made it a whole lot easier. So this is what we're going to be using for a regulator. It's just a Holly brand one, and this is the part number for it right there. It's a 4.5 to 9 psi. I think we're gonna run this setup maybe around 5 pounds. We're gonna have a gauge on it, so will be able to see what it's running at when the pump is on. So you can see we have a line here for our -6. That's for the hard line. This is the in. We're gonna have one for our gauge that we're gonna have out here, so we can see what it's running at. And then I have one for a 3/8 barb. We are going to have a little bit of rubber line on that due to what my rail is for this carburetor. I probably could have bought some kind of fitting to do some kind of AN line, but hey, if we have a little bit of rubber line on here, we can always cut it to put a see-through filter in there. So we're going to get this thing mounted up. I'm going to tighten it onto the threads first, and then we'll bolt it down, and then we can see about, you know, joining the rubber line. I still got to get a gauge yet, but then maybe we can see what's going on after that. I don't know how far we're getting in this video today. Lacey, you're sleeping and you come and bite me. What are you doing? Alright guys, so I picked myself up a fuel pressure gauge there, so you can see that that's 0 to 15. We got our rubber line hooked up there, so basically everything is ready to go on this fuel system, but I'm just gonna have to check it yet for pressure and leaks. But I think that's actually where we're gonna end off this video, because I got a whole bunch of parts in the mail for that rear end, so I kind of want to finish that up. So you know, we got really good progress on this. Now I don't have to worry about it later, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. Definitely comment down below if you're curious about anything on this. You know, I'll try to do my best to answer your questions. And yeah, thanks for watching this, and we'll catch you next time. And don't forget to salute the beaver. Friggin' Lacey.